Welcome to Soul via Soul, the podcast where we embark on a journey of self-love and true wellness. I'm your host, Jada, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you here with me as we dive into all things mind, body, and soul. Now, what do you say we get this thing started? Let's dive in. Welcome back to Soul via Soul. This is season 2, where it's all things mind, body, and wellness, but this time with a little twist, because as of this recording, our house just went on the private listing, which means that it's officially for sale. Now, there's a part of me that has a lot of joy over that, because that's obviously the first step in our transition to living in Portugal and exploring Europe. However, it also brings it right down to this is real. This is real. And it's almost like there's no turning back. Now, obviously, you could pull it off and say, okay, changed our mind. People do that all the time, right? But there's a lot of emotion, because I still struggle every day with the idea of what it is to detach from everything I own. But I also have to keep in mind what I'm going to. And as I'm kind of in this semi-retirement phase, I don't think that I'm alone with being in my mid-50s and kind of looking around and going, okay, is this it? Is there more? I've had successful careers. I've had, I don't know, life gives you what it gives you, right? And there's been ups and downs. I've had things that have taught me great lessons, which, my divorce is not something that I would consider, that's not something to be happy about. I'm not grateful that happened. And yet, because that happened, I have a healthy, loving relationship now. So things happen, right? I guess the way they're supposed to happen, but there's this sense of what it is to truly live. And while I've talked about stepping out of hustle culture and go and high stress, I never thought I would have the courage to do it. I never thought that I would actually be able to say, yeah, I'm stepping out of hustle culture. It's just kind of this catchphrase, right? Let's all just, but no, prioritizing my health and wellness, prioritizing what aligns with my heart and soul, and listening to what speaks to my heart, to embrace what I feel is the best decision for my life, is a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to walk into the unknown. It's a really difficult thing to step away from everything that's familiar and walk into complete darkness. And yet, every time I've done that in my life, every time I've trusted my gut, I've trusted my intuition, I've leaned into what was speaking to my soul, even if it went counter to what everyone thought I should do or should do for my life. When I listened to that, it was always right. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I am learning, is that I learned this too when I was pregnant. Everyone's got their opinions on what you should do for your life. And I hope that my children are learning this. When they entered college, I had some ideas about what I thought they should pursue, given I thought I knew their talents and their ambition and their skill set. However, ultimately it's up to them to decide. And my job is to support that. I want to be your biggest cheerleader. And often drowning out, or I shouldn't say drowning out, but having your voice and your guidance be louder than other people's is really hard. And especially being a chronic people pleaser and not having great boundaries most of my life, Being able to say, this is a decision that my husband and I have made that we think is going to be not only best for our mental and physical health and wellness, and we think it's going to enhance all of our relationships. And we think that it's going to allow us to maybe retire earlier. And because it's an adventure, and because we actually think that it's going to allow us to give our children a bigger view of the world by opening up places where we travel as being, rather than regular Christmases, being like experimental Christmases. Like we're going to have this big experience together. I've always wanted to do that, but didn't have the resources or funds to do that. But not having a mortgage at all and living very simply and close to the earth in a very slower life pace creates opportunities for all of these things to drop in. But in order for them to drop in, you got to let go. Having the ability to receive the blessings in this world requires us to open our hands. And when we are holding so tightly to the things that we are afraid to let go of, we literally cannot receive the blessings. And it's in the letting go that we receive. It's in the ability to look at what brings you joy and what lights you up, and doing that and moving your life in that direction. And not just talking about it, but actually doing it by taking the longings of your heart, by taking the possibilities that exist and to actually moving closer to them rather than having fear keep you from experiencing them is, I don't know, I just feel like it's what's on the other side of clinging to what I know. Moving into, and I talk about this all the time, the fertile darkness, where we literally walk into the scary parts and we get to meet parts of ourselves that maybe we haven't met before. I guarantee you doing this is bringing up so much that my body is having to let go of. And I talk about that in like my online wellness courses and classes, and especially with the Patreon, where we can go really deep on somatic healing or different topics about, whatever the Patreon members want to dive deeper into. Like that's the whole place to do that. We take deep dives there on all things health and wellness. And one of the things that we really have to pause and ask ourselves regularly, I feel, is what brings us joy? Are we living our fullest life? Are we living a life of our choosing, or are we enslaved by the things that we own? Is our life purposeful? Is it meaningful? Are we doing things that bring us joy? Are we doing things regularly that benefit our health and wellness? Our health is wealth. And the older I get, and having people my age that literally have passed away, it really brings it to light. And I had a skin cancer scare earlier in the year, and my dad died of melanoma. That kind of remembrance makes you pause, and it gives you a chance to say, you know what, this is the second half of my life. This is the second chapter. This is, again, the second season of Sylvia's Soul, and it's pivoting into taking you on this journey of how our vessels, our bodies, it's what we have. This takes us on our life journey. It's how we love. It's how we heal. How we move our body and what we put in it matters so very much. It's the vessel. It is the soles of our feet that allow us to reach our soul's yearning. And it's the soles of my feet that are going to take me across the ocean to walk into a new culture, into a new experience, and to live an adventure. And I've had people say, well, what if you regret it? What if it doesn't work out? Well, what if? Okay, well, planes go both directions and I'm going to be coming back and forth anyway. And what's the downside? Yes, it's scary, but how are you living your life? Like, if you look around and you see that there's parts of your life that don't feel fulfilling to you, or you're like, I don't even know what brings me joy, then start asking the question. Start peeling back the layers. Start saying, what lights my soul on fire? And listen, we're all capable of making changes in our life. Yes, change is scary. Yes, change is hard. Yes, yes, and yes. All of those things are true. But what is on the other side of that fear? And so many times in my life, what's on the other side of fear are the greatest blessings I've ever known. What are you afraid of? How is fear manifesting in your life? And how is it keeping you potentially from living a life of your dreams? What would you do differently? What would you change? What would you get rid of? What would you add more of? How will you honor yourself today? And what can you put in place to honor yourself tomorrow? And let the voice of your longings, your passion, your dreams be louder than the voices around you that might highlight the things, because that's their fear generally coming to the surface. And we sometimes are a mirror. We sometimes, when we do things, we mirror and we highlight the fears in others. And that's normal. But what are you wanting in your life that you're afraid to go after? Life is short and we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And they say, what if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it's pretty awesome? What if it's pretty awesome? So what would it be like for you to look at the things in your life that you're afraid to do, but it's the longing of your soul? Have the courage to look at those things. Have the courage to make the cuts where you need to make them. Have the courage to say yes to what your soul is longing for. And then put on your shoes and go walk toward that.